Hello, everyone. This is Steve with Aptera Owners Club. Today, I'm joined by Mike Turner. Mike Turner is the guy that created what's known as the Aerocivic. And I remember when about, was it 15 years ago, Mike?
Yeah, it was after that when
Oh,
Hurricane Katrina was what started me on the whole project.
okay. So about 15 years ago, I was on this website called Echo Modder, which you see here. And this is a website where people were into hypermiling and then modding their cars to have better fuel efficiency. And I did a few minor things on my car back then, but this Aero Civic was like someone that had taken it to the nth degree. And I remember being super impressed by this project and amazed at what kind of results that Mike got by doing these modifications. And then he showed up on the Aptera forum a little while ago and stated that he was the creator of the Aerocivic. And I couldn't believe that somehow we met. I was able to meet the guy that made this thing, which I had kind of admired from afar back then. And it brought back these memories. I kind of forgotten about the Aerocivic. Now, there is an Aerocivic website at aerocivic.com that Mike made, and you can read it yourself. But we're joined by Mike tonight. I just wanted to ask him some questions, have him take us through his build process and what he noticed. So thanks for joining us, Mike.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. So Mike, tell us what made you start doing this to your Civic.
All right, I had a long commute. It was 52 miles each way, and when Hurricane Katrina came through, the local Colonial Pipeline shut down for about a week, and all local gas stations were running out of gas, and get kind of, and plus the prices started shooting up real high. So I just figured I needed to do something. And at the time, the new cars were getting worse and worse gas mileage. So I decided to see what I could do with my current car. Because I figure any reduction in my commuting costs is the equivalent of getting a raise at work. So basically started initially simple thing like take some grill block. The grill opening in most cars is way oversized. It's sized for the biggest engine option under the hottest summer towing, stop and go, worst heating situation. So most of the time you just need a fraction of that. so basically I just took some duct tape, 50 cents worth of duct tape, blocked off like about 90% of the grill opening, and that gave me a couple of miles per gallon improvement. Plus the engine warmed up faster in cold weather.
And
So
did you have any issues with it overheating?
No problem at all. And paid for itself in one tank gas.
Okay. What was the car that you started with?
It was a 92 Honda Civic CX.
Okay. And that's a hatchback, right?
Yes, three-door
It's a
hatchback.
three-door hatch. So this is like I'm outlining the original car right here with the cursor.
Yep.
Yep. So it's not a sedan, it's a hatch. Okay. So the first thing you did was get some duct tape and cover most of the grill.
Yeah.
And did you just kind of like cover it halfway at first and then continuously covered it more, or did you have to modify it, or did you just cover 90% and it just happened to work out?
I started about 70%, and then I noticed no problem with it, overheating or anything like that. So I just kept on upping up till about 90%.
Okay. And then when you got to 90%, did you go past it and it started overheating, so you took some off?
Oh, I just left it 90%. I figured needed a little bit.
Okay. You didn't want to push it any farther than that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was the next thing that you did?
Basically started doing the rear wheel covering over the opening at the rear wheel. The wheel well cover.
Uh-huh.
And I initially started out just doing it with Coroplast, which is kind of corrugated plastic.
Right,
And
right.
then,
The stuff that they make like lawn signs out of, right?
yeah,
Uh-huh.
that was easy to modify. And it basically, once the modification proved itself, then I made it in aluminum sheet and with metal braces to hold it in place.
And how did you affix it?
I drilled and tapped holes in the sheet metal of the car.
Okay.
And some places I use pop rivets on things where it didn't have to be taken off.
Okay. Now, what was the gas mileage that you were getting with it before you started all these modifications?
All right. The original gas mileage was upper 40s during the summer, lower 40s during the winter. If I just drove like summertime on interstate, like 55 miles an hour, I can maybe get 51 miles per gallon, but that was about it.
Hmm.
This is my commute was interstate pretty much most part
Mostly highway.
at higher speed. So
And then, so the covering the grill gave you a couple of miles per gallon, you think?
yeah,
And then covering the rear wheels, did you kind of measure how much of an impact that made, you think?
a little bit. I didn't really. It wasn't significant.
Okay. So you think covering the grill was more significant than covering the rear wheels?
Yeah, yeah. That's a big opening on the front there. With air blowing through the engine compartment.
Uh-huh.
So drag there.
Okay. All right. So then you did the rear wheel cover. Then what was next?
I went for the big kahuna, the boat tail.
Okay, you went right for the boat tail next. Okay. Because this is the biggest and most obvious looking part of the modification is this boat tail.
And had the largest effect on improving mileage.
Okay. So tell me about that build. Like, how did you build it? How'd you affix it? How'd you design the shape of it?
Well, what I did was I looked at some very short fuselage aircraft, trying to get the right shape. And I used the Equestrian Venture and the Hughes 500 helicopter, bodies for general, shape for the back end of the vehicle. So I
Okay.
used prototype. And then the basic structure is aluminum monocoque. I basically use one by quarter inch by 1 inch aluminum bar, and then pop riveted or drilled and tapped screws, aluminum sheet metal over the top of the bar structure.
Uh-huh.
Remove the original tailgate and the original hatch.
Okay.
When
So
I
you
did,
removed the hatch
yeah,
and the rear bumper.
no, the rear bumper's still there.
Okay. Okay.
I just removed the tailgate and the hatch
Okay.
because that particular car had like a two-part tailgate, had a
Oh,
lower
it
part,
did. Okay.
glass part open up upward.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. So it's not a single hatch that opened upward.
It was a two-part.
Okay.
Anyway, it gave me additional about 3 feet more space, cargo space I didn't have
Yep.
before. I had no problem putting 10-foot 2x4s in the car,
Okay.
and also gave me about 4 feet of crush space back there. And I did get rear-ended one time, and the damage was absorbed by the boat tail, never reached the original bumper, and of
Okay.
course rebuilt that.
How much did the boat tail cost to make roughly, and how long did it take you to make it and put it on, you think?
That one took about a week, and cost of probably around $200. That was the biggest single expense in project.
I see. And how much of a difference do you think that made in your fuel efficiency?
Easy 8 miles per gallon, probably 10 miles per gallon. Is a big had a big effect
Okay.
because you figure most cars you got a low pressure area behind the car because the air is
Uh-huh.
trying to fill it behind the car. It's like a low pressure vacuum pulling back on your car. It's trying to slow it down.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Did you think about doing a camback design?
no, I didn't because I figure aircraft are going for the lowest drag. You don't see any camp back aircraft,
Okay.
so I figure the boat tail basically brings everything down to a point. The air can rejoin at the back of the car with no low pressure location.
Uh-huh.
A camback, smaller version of what you have behind a normal car.
I gotcha. I gotcha. So you had to build this thing twice. When the second time you build it, did you change anything about it?
I added more LED taillights to the structure to make it more obvious.
Okay. These little things right here.
Well, above there, the
Oh, these
four,
things. Uh-huh.
I bumped it up to six.
Oh, okay. And then I guess you ran your wires to make these become the turn signals and stuff.
Yeah, I basically just jumped it off the original turn signals
Uh-huh.
that were in because the original bulbs and lights were still there. I just basically picked the signal off and took back to the new lamp.
And then what is this clear stuff? What was the clear hatch made out of, and this clear
Lexan.
thing in the back? Lexan. Okay. Okay.
Actually, that clear thing in the back I had removed because I got stopped by the police one time, and
Uh-huh.
state law says can you have nothing covering the license plate. So even those little surrounds that people have around license plates are technically illegal.
I
So
see.
I had to expose the back. I had to take that part off,
I see.
right over the license plate.
Gotcha, gotcha. So, okay, so then you made the boat tail. So now you've got the front grille covered, the boat tail, this rear wheel covered. Then did you do this bumper thing next, or
I did the under panel,
oh, you did the under panel? And what
smooth
was
under
that?
panel.
What did you do with that? Like, what was that made out of?
The parts that were near the exhaust system and the catalytic converter and muffler were aluminum sheet. I basically
Oh,
used aluminum flash from the roofing department at Lowe's, and then
uh-huh.
the other part chloroplast.
I see. And then
But
you
I
just
basically
kind of like bolted it on to the undercarriage.
drilled and tapped screws,
Okay. And then you
and
cut out some areas for the suspension to give the suspension room to move.
yeah, I had that. That was probably the biggest drag areas underneath there, so I had to have openings for the suspension. And I tried to use thing that might contact the road because
Uh-huh.
chloroplast can bend back in shape, whereas the aluminum sheet, if it gets hit by something, it crunches.
Yeah, and it just stays in that shape.
Yeah,
So it looks like you didn't have like too much ground clearance on this thing after doing this modification. It looks pretty
actually,
low here.
that picture's kind of uh, uh doesn't really because the ground kind of rose under there. The
Right, because of the
ground,
grass and stuff.
yeah, the ground cover it didn't really change that much. It was basically flush with the original underside.
I see.
That picture is a little bit deceptive there, just looking at it.
Okay. And so then that gave you a couple more miles per gallon.
Yeah, I also made it a lot quieter
Ah,
because
okay.
a lot of your so-called road noise is
Uh,
actually wind noise turbulence under the car.
I see. So that was very noticeable to you.
Yeah, dropped the noise level quite a bit.
Okay. All right. Okay, then after the undercarriage, what was next?
The front wheel wells covers.
Okay, that's the thing I thought was the most interesting. So I'm going to scroll down to the front wheel well. So this is a picture of the front wheel well covers, right?
Yeah,
And I thought this was very interesting because a lot of cars have the rear wheel cover, like like the original Honda Insight had the rear wheel covers, and I have a
yeah.
Honda Clarity and it's got the rear wheel covers like partially covered because that's a pretty easy thing to do.
A lot of
But the
cars from the 50s.
but the front wheel has got to turn. And
Yeah,
so it's hard to cover it. And you came up with a fairly ingenious solution. Tell us about that.
or I put two conveyor rollers that would on the part where the side of the tire would contact the cover when I made a turn.
Yeah,
So basically, that pushed it out, and then on the bottom corner, each bottom corner, I had a spring that pulled it back in,
right, right,
and set up so basically the only time it really popped out was when I made a sharp turn. So changing lane stuff for that speed, no problem. But when I made turn at the intersection, it would pop out as needed.
right. So changing lanes at highway speed, your wheel doesn't turn enough that it would even contact these things.
Yeah, true.
And so this, like, I asked you if you had patented this thing because I've never seen this since, and I think it's a really ingenious idea for cars to put a cover on the front wheel.
It
Is it?
also has makes a certain amount. The rollers make a certain amount of noise,
Uh-huh.
so around pedestrians and I'm making a turn, they can hear the noise.
I see. And it gives them some extra warning. And
Yep.
like when it flares out, obviously the aerodynamics is like not great, but it only flares out at slow speed turns.
Yeah, exactly. 25, maybe 30 miles an hour at most.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And so you did that, which I think that is an ingenious idea. I love it. And then you did the front bumper covers.
Let's see. Next thing I did was delete the side mirrors and move them
Okay,
in.
right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you notice any appreciable difference when you did that?
Uh, the biggest difference was a lot quieter because you don't have this big wind noise generator 2 feet from your ear.
Okay. So it got quieter, but you didn't really measure any fuel efficiency differences to
It was
know
within
how much it gave you.
it was within a mile per gallon or two, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. So fairly, in the big scheme of things, fairly minimal. Okay, then you did the front bumper here.
Yep. Yep.
And so that was actually a little bit of work because it looks like you molded the thing.
Yeah. I basically smoothed out the front end there, and I also incorporated a adjustable grill block into it so
Oh,
I can
okay. Uh-huh.
place duct tape.
And how did you control that grill block?
I had a little actuator in inside the car there, so I
And
could
so
open and
was it
close.
electronic or was it just like a wire that was like mechanically hooked up to it?
Mechanical wire.
Oh, okay. All right. And you just like pulled on it or something?
Yeah, it's sort of like a brake on a bicycle.
Okay. Okay.
So like, and also I installed a light on the dash that told me whenever the radiator fan kicked on. So if
Okay. So that's when you
light kicked,
knew that you needed to give it a little more air.
exactly.
I gotcha. Okay. So whenever the radiator fan kicked on, you just turned that on. Okay. And then that was that pretty much it?
Well, it did other. Well, I also did the little boat tails around the tires and the double side skirts. I basically split the air ahead of the front tire and
Okay, like
kept the
this
air.
thing right here.
Yeah, that's the front part of it that divided the air around the tire. And then you had the side skirt, basically kept the air separated, going past from the front wheel to the back wheel, and
Uh-huh.
then the back of the back wheel had a little mini boat tail.
This thing or
No, that's
this thing?
uh, I don't see any in those pictures. There's
Let me
one
see.
later.
Let me see if I can find more pictures here. Yeah, so this is your little mirror that you moved the mirror to the inside right here.
Yep, little convex mirror.
And then
Had no problem with it.
I don't see. So this is the side skirt right here.
Yeah,
And then this is the little kind of spoiler in front of the front wheel.
I
Okay,
call it tire spin. People call
okay, I'm not finding any. So the rear, but you put some kind of boat tail along the back of it,
it.
somewhere
Yeah,
back
it's
here.
like a little thing to basically a miniature version of what was on the back of the car. Just basically allowed the air from each side of the tire to rejoin.
Uh-huh. So this gave your ground clearance. It gave you some ground clearance issues, right?
Yeah, what I did was I made them out of coroplast, so
Uh-huh.
I deliberately make them oversized, and then I paint it with black paint,
Uh-huh.
and then drive for a couple of days, and I see where the black paint got rubbed off with
Uh-huh.
contact with the rubber, and I trimmed it back to that point.
Okay.
So
Okay. And
cover it.
did you have issues going over speed bumps and things like that?
Nope, nope.
Okay.
Well, the double side skirt basically could flex out of the way and pop back in
Hmm.
place, so no problem there.
Yeah. So it's similar to the idea that Aptera is doing about putting like that EVA foam on their wheel skirts.
Yeah,
They're having it. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm
You,
curious how well it recovers after an impact. Is it
yeah.
like pops back in shape, or is it a braid away and then it's still?
I got the impression from them that like smaller impacts, it would just rebound, but then continuous things would eventually kind of abrade away.
Yeah, I'll
And
have to
so,
see when I see the actual material.
yeah, yeah, that it's interesting. Like I think we have a lot of people have questions about that, and people have a lot of concerns about the wheel clearance, the ground clearance of the wheel skirts on the
Well,
Aptera.
the difference there is the skirt is moving up and down with the wheel.
Right,
It's not like
exactly.
a side of wheel.
Right. And yours was a standard car and you're pretty low and you still didn't have too many issues. Now, of
No,
course, your skirt is flexible and does bend away. So
yeah,
that does help with that. So okay, after all these modifications, so you started off kind of like low 40s to high 40s, depending on the time of year. Where did you end up after
I end
doing
up
all this?
70s during the summertime, and mid to high 70s in summertime, and upper 60s during the wintertime.
Okay. So that's
And
like a more than a 20 mile per gallon increase. So like more than 50%.
basically it acted like the horsepower boost at speed. It didn't have an effect on my 0 to 60 time, but my 60 to 100 time had a huge effect.
Okay. Like noticeable.
Yeah.
And then you did some kind of roll down test to kind of estimate the coefficient of drag of this thing, right?
Yeah, the coast down test. What you do is you go up to a certain speed, like go up like 80 miles an hour, and then you coast and see how long it takes to drop down to say 40 miles an hour. And then there's formulas you can plug all that stuff in and gives temperature, altitude, all those variables, and it calculates CD from that.
I got you. And what did your estimated CD end up being?
0.17,
0.17. And what did it start off at? Do you know?
0.34.
Okay. All right. So 0.17 is kind of ridiculous. It's probably more aerodynamic than any production car right now, right?
Yep. Well, I think that Lightyear one is about the same. It's about down there, but about the closest.
Right, the Lightyear one that is just now, I think a few people might be getting it. That one's about 0.17, huh?
But it's a lot better than the Prius or the any of the Teslas.
Right, right. And then Aptera is supposed to be 0.13, so that's theoretically better.
Yeah.
And then what are you made some very interesting observations about driving the car. So number one, you noticed that the 60 to 100, like at high speed, it feels like you have a more powerful engine. Any other observations that you noticed?
Yeah, most cars, you get up about 70 miles an hour, you can start feeling the wind load on the car. You start coasting, you're basically starting to hit a drag wall. So you start coasting at 70, you lose speed fairly quickly until you get down to about 40.
Uh-huh.
On this, up to 100 before I notice any kind of drag wall.
So
Basically,
like if you let go of the gas at 70, it would not slow down very fast. It would coast down. You would lose speed fairly slowly.
very slowly. At 70 miles an hour on a flat road in the summertime, I could coast for 2 miles.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
And one time, the engine died on me on the interstate, and I was about a mile from the exit, so I just coasted along and went on the off ramp. They got there.
Wow. Now it says that you under like perfect conditions, did you actually hit like 95 miles per gallon?
Yeah. Yeah, I basically did speed tests where I just basically ran at that speed for like a half mile to mile, and see what it read on the fuel indicator, mileage indicator.
Uh-huh.
And
yep. And what else did you notice about compared to a normal car?
well, basically, there's no wind load. It's takes the least amount of very little engine power to keep it up to speed. You get any kind of downhill, and it starts gaining speed very quickly.
I see. Uh-huh.
And compared to a normal car, I go from this to a normal car. I feel like I'm driving through a thin layer of mud on the road. It's like a powerboat where you got to keep pouring the power to the vehicle to maintain speed. Whereas with the Aerocivic, it's like it just goes and goes and goes. You just add a little bit of power now and then to maintain the speed, but compared to a normal car, much less.
And then you said something about bugs and like dirt and
Stays
snow.
because most of the dirt on a normal car is either on the front where the bugs hit it, or areas where you have turbulent airflow, like the backside and around the wheel wells.
Uh-huh.
You see driving down the road in a wet day, and you see all the spray coming out of the wheel wells. Of course, the whole back end's covered with muck. And we have a streamlined airflow like that. Everything just goes past without impacting.
And so you noticed the car like stayed a lot cleaner, huh?
Yes.
And you got very rarely got bugs on it.
Occasional big beetle would hit the windshield, but other than that, most insects would just go right over the top without hitting, like a butterfly or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Be lifted top.
And the snow wouldn't really hit it either.
Yeah, pretty much. But as long as I was moving, I didn't really have to use windshield wipers.
And how about rain? Did rain behave any differently, you think, or is that pretty much the same?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same.
Okay.
Uh,
Didn't notice any huge differences with the rain.
I use Rain X and that to help reduce the windshield wiper use.
Okay. All right. So you said an interesting thing before we started this talk, which I'm a little bit surprised by, but you're a reservation holder on an Aptera.
Yes.
And you said that you already saw some modifications that you could do to improve the aerodynamics of the Aptera.
At least the version I just saw that they just came out with.
Okay. Tell me about that. I'm very curious.
All right. Well, back end, there's a sharp end on the back there. Looks like maybe 2 inch wide across the back, down, down vertically in the middle there, and looks like you can put like a little mini boat tail back there to bring that to a point, as opposed to the cutoff they have. It's like a miniature version of a camback.
Okay. So you mean it's wide from side to side,
On the back end of it,
like this thing?
Yeah. See, there's a space there. Ideally, it should come right to a point. Like on aircraft, you usually comes to right to, tail end would come to a point.
You mean this part right here?
Yeah, and
So
also on the vertical part.
On this part.
Yeah,
but this part's already like really thin.
well, take a look at it. It looks like maybe an inch wide.
Yeah, it's probably a little more than an inch, actually. Probably like 2 inches.
But I would bring that to a point.
Okay.
And I'd put like some kind of clear covering boat tail that would get over the light areas.
Okay. So you would bring this to a point, because this I think is about 5-6 inches tall here.
Well, that part I probably couldn't do because of the license covering problem. Plus, that's where you charge it up to.
Exactly.
But along the sides there, on either side, I'd bring it to a point.
For like this part right here.
Yep.
Okay. And anything else? Or is that the major thing?
Well, that's one thing. I also noticed there were some openings around where the suspension went into the side of the body.
Okay.
There's some openings there, which they may fix that
right here and right here.
There's a couple openings there. They may fix that when they get the final version out. And then the other thing was of course, the side mirrors.
Right, you take those off.
And on the video camera part of the side mirror was pretty flat too. You see me smooth that out a little bit.
I see. Yeah. So let's say that they left these little gaps here. Well, you would have to fill it with something flexible, right? Because it has to move. It has to have give in here.
Yeah, some type of rubber sheet or something like that would allow it to maneuver around, but while keeping the air flow smooth there.
Right. Now, a lot of people want to just take these wheel covers off completely. But I was told, and this is something I want to plan on asking them when I go down there, like how much of an efficiency hit that would be to take these things off completely. When I was talking to Charles, who's the engineer making these wheel covers, he seemed to say that would be a really big hit, because he said a rotating wheel that's out in the airflow would just be horrible.
Well, you look at the top part of the wheel, it's going twice the speed of the car.
Yeah. So you agree that would be really bad?
That would be a big impact on the mileage.
Yeah. All right.
Of course, the other aspect of it would be putting all kinds of rain spray into the air.
Yeah, that's true.
That was another thing about my car. I went down dirt road or spray on behind the car, and there's very little of that.
Dust. You were putting up very little spray to the cars behind you.
Yeah. Also, dust behind you. When I went down dirt road, it would disturb the dust very little.
Right. This is the little boat tail you put on the back here, huh?
Yep, that's it.
Yep, that's the thing on the back wheel. Okay. Yeah, so that would collect. So how dirty did it get underneath here? Was it really terrible?
You talking about the wheel wells or?
Yep, like this, like the little boat tail behind the rear wheel. Was that collecting just a ton of dirt, and was it a big problem? Because that's one of the things that people worry about is that inside of this rear wheel would just get ridiculously dirty and would be hard to clean or something.
I had no problem there. No accumulation of dirt on the wheel wells.
Uh-huh. How now you're in South Carolina, right? So it doesn't really get snowy.
Well, I was commuting up to Asheville area, so they got snow.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you did deal with some snow, and that wasn't a huge issue with these covered wheel wells either.
No, it wasn't. On the front wheel wells, I was exhausting the hot air from the engine out
Uh-huh.
to the front wheel wells. So
Okay.
that snow that might try to accumulate around the rollers.
Yeah, so that was never an issue because they were that was constantly being melted.
Yeah.
All right, well, very good. All right, hey, Mike, thank you so much for joining me. That was super interesting. And again, I'm really glad that I found you and got to talk to you about the Aerocivic. Again, I thought this was one of the coolest things I'd seen back then when I was on the EcoModder forum. And hats off to you for doing this thing. Where is this thing right now? Do you know? Did you junk it or?
No, I donated to another EcoModder member, and he
Okay.
did a lot. Basically, went through and because what happened, a lot of the parts like the suspension, the steering, all start wearing out, which is
Yeah.
beyond. So I donated to him, and he did repaired all that stuff and put video camera rear views and placed the seats and placed the instrument panel and a bunch of stuff like that. But then
Okay.
he had got a job in New Zealand, so he had to gave it to another person who then later on was apparently have some kind of financial problem, was trying to sell it. And then he was moving to West Virginia, and that's the last thing I've heard of it.
I see. Okay. So it is still, as far as you know, it's still operational and running someplace.
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing because it's that thing is now like 30 years old,
Oh yeah.
and you had put like 600,000 miles on the thing, right? Before you
Yeah.
was
I modified it at 350,000 roughly,
uh-huh.
and then I when I passed it on, it was over like 630,000 thereabouts.
Wow, that's amazing. And you figure you more than made up in fuel savings on the time and money you spent on these modifications.
Oh yeah, paid for the fuel savings. It cost me $400 in materials to do the mods,
Hmm.
and I saved that much in gas in just 5 or 6 months.
That is awesome. All right. Well, thanks, Mike. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for taking time out of your evening to talk to us about the Aero Civic.
Okay,
And
so
I'm really excited about getting the Aptera, which I think, I really look forward to having that feeling of like not losing speed at highway speed and just like being able to coast for a long ways, which you expect the Aptera to behave similarly, right?
oh yeah, and there's another thing you probably noticed too is the local cops will start noticing you.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
I,
I
I
think, I mean, like, obviously, you got a lot of attention driving this thing around because it just looks weird.
yep, I, I
Eh,
I had cops pull me over, and they do the usual license registration thing
Uh-huh.
and go back to their car, and then they'd come back up and give it back to say that what's all this stuff on the car for, and
Uh-huh.
they pull ridiculous things, like you left the dew on the back window, stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
You didn't clean the dew off the back, things like that, and that was just an excuse to ask questions about the car. And one guy pulled me over. He said, "You haven't done anything wrong. I just want you to ask some questions about the car."
Yeah,
And
I think like the Aptera also looks very unusual, and we're
yeah,
going to get a lot of attention on that thing too.
yep.
All right. Well, great. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. All right,
Oh,
thanks
yeah,
for
no,
watching, everyone. And if you guys have any questions for Mike, maybe put them in the comments below, and maybe Mike will come by and answer your questions. And thanks to our supporting members, and have a great day, everyone.